Elmo, sold by Typo Toys for $29 at Target. Prices subsequently skyrocketed to $2,000 by resellers. He won't be getting an Elmo, I'll tell you that. Maybe some parents wished that they had just bought some bubbles at the dollar store. Please welcome our next speaker, Derrek Long, and his speech, Bubbles.
Bubbles are fascinating, aren't they? A ubiquitous, economically cheap toy, seemingly created out of nothing, disperse and glide off into the distance, and suddenly disappear and vanish into nothing. Many kids and adults alike are entertained by bubbles every year, every day. But I'm not here to talk to you about the bubbles of your childhood. I'm here to talk to you about bigger bubbles. Bubbles that throughout history have destroyed billions and trillions of dollars, just vanished, just like just in In my speech, I hope to explain to you what an economic bubble is and give you a bit of a deeper understanding. And I'm going to do that by telling you about a current economic bubble and then breaking down into what may cause a bubble. I've got some visual aids pictures. I found this fascinating reading about the bike bubble in China right now. And that the epicenter of this is Beijing, a city with 20 million people. 20 million people, there's a lot of transportation. There's a lot of places to get around to. And so the shared bicycle market has been exploding. What the shared bicycle market is, we have it here in the US, where you can go and get a bicycle, rent it with a swipe of your credit card or a smartphone, and use it to go the next mile, 2 miles of your commute or shopping, etc. In a big city where cars and buses and large amounts of transportation is limited, bicycles are a great way to get around. Well, there's 15 companies competing in Beijing, which causes a massive amount of bicycles being left on streets. They're being, I'll pass these around, they're touted as the ride anywhere, park anywhere bicycle. So this looks like a field of flowers. It's actually colored bicycles. And there's power lines to give you a sense of scale. Here's a guy riding a bicycle in front of a pile of about, it seems like 50 feet high of mangled metal. So 15 companies in Beijing. The top 2 have been valued at over $1 billion. Think about that, a $1 billion company that rents bicycles. That's why they're calling it the bubble. Well, what is a bubble? A bubble is when the value of an asset rises significantly and then drops exponentially. Take a look at this graph. The red line is the value of the asset. It rises, there's a peak, and then a drop. An asset bubble can happen to anything that has value. Oil, houses, cars, land. One of the most common textbook asset bubbles in history is the tulip bubble in 1630 in the Netherlands, where in a matter of months, the price of a tulip bulb, a single bulb, rose to 10 times the annual salary of a worker. That's like a tulip bulb being worth $500,000 in today's dollars. That's pretty incredible, or a really pretty flower, right? Or the dot-com bubble of the early 90s, when personal computing, internet technologies was innovating. Prices went up, then dropped off. We all know the housing market bubble of the early 2000s. And then recently, Bitcoin. That's the latest fad, right? Bubble that was $19,000 last year, and now it's down to 4,000. There's a couple economic theories out there of what really causes and the underlying factors of a bubble. So there's one theory that comes out on top, and it's two researchers, economists out of Queensland University in Australia. Their names Preston Peter and Jordan Sandberg. And they say bubbles are sociologically driven speculation, meaning there's underlying cultural narratives that causes bubbles. And they give a couple examples, one of them being easy credit or low interest rates. If you have access to easy, cheap cash, you might take that cash out of the bank and go invest into another asset that hopefully will go up in value. If enough people do that, that asset over here will go up in value more than what is reasonable. The next is innovation. Innovation can cause bubbles because of speculation. The dot-com era bubble was a good example of that, where technology, the internet, computers is growing up. It's a really good innovation. We still have computers around today. It's a great market, but the expansion and the value of those websites grew beyond what was reasonable. The next thing that can cause bubbles is loose regulation. We saw that in the housing market when people were able to get housing mortgages with 0% down or very low credit scores, making it difficult for them to pay it back. But by them having that loan where they would not have been able to get that mortgage otherwise, that freed up a lot of money to go into buy houses, driving up prices. So how can you avoid a bubble? Well, that's tough because economies are complex. They also go up and down naturally. But there's a few ways that we as individuals can spot the next bubble or avoid being caught up in the next bubble. First is value. Think of value. What's the underlying value of that asset? And is it irrational? Let's take the housing, for example. What does it take? What is the value in a house? Well, you have to have land to build your house on. Then you need to have the inputs like concrete, metal, wood, windows. So you have your inputs, and then you need somebody to put it all together. So labor. So 3 basic inputs of a house to build a house. So if you were to go buy a house, you wouldn't really pay that much more to purchase a house outright than it would to build a house, right? That would give you an idea of what's a reasonable valuation. Now there's some subtleties because you don't know how much that view of the mountains is worth or having a landfill in your backyard is worth. There's some subtleties. But you get a pretty good idea of what a house should be worth or what you should be paying. Next is, this is Warren Buffett's idea. Be skeptical, or be greedy when people are skeptical. Be skeptical when people are greedy. If you see something like a Bitcoin that's going sky high prices and you don't understand it, be skeptical. And lastly, diversify. Markets just naturally have up and down movements. If you diversify across a lot of different assets, you're not going to be caught up in one bubble. And lastly, I'll leave you with this quote, that even though there is some understanding of economic bubbles, economies are driven by people, and people are driven by emotions of greed, fear, and hope. So hopefully, if you're caught up in a bubble, you'll just go to the dollar store and have some entertainment.